Where are you hiding, Kale? Felicity's voice broke through the tension like a sharp crack of thunder. She emerged, dripping with swamp essence and self-assuredness, a concoction of strong will and chaotic spirit. Her hair, wild as the elements, frizzed around her as she stepped closer, determination stitched into each stride. "I'm not letting you slip away this time." "I'm not slipping," he shot back, frustration bubbling under his breath. "You think it's easy for me, juggling this mess? I can't just ignore Ricky and his crew. They're breathing down my neck." "Then stop pretending you own this swamp," she challenged. "It owns you." Her eyes blazed, bright and fierce, catching the last glimmers of sunlight. Just then, Ricky sidled up, a smirk playing on his lips, oblivious to the brewing storm. "Tough times in the swamp, right? But hey, every underdog has its day. Feel like howling it out?" He gestured dramatically, as if they could rally the swamp's ghosts to their aid. Kale's expression darkened. "You're the real underdog here, Ricky. Have you ever thought that your little plans might just burn us all?" Felicity rolled her eyes, knowing that the energy between the two could ignite a wildfire. What's his plan this time? Let's get back to the comedy club while we're at it. At the mention of comedy, the air lightened for a moment. Ricky shrugged. "That's my survival tactic. Humor before the hammer drops works every time." His laughter echoed along the water's edge, but the irony was thick enough to choke on. Across the clearing, Rena, a local who ran the bait shop, had arrived, pedaling her way in. "You boys gonna let the swamps chew you up? Or are we gonna get out of here?" Her assertiveness snapped back to attention. "I've seen you take on worse. Get your head out of the darkness." Kale turned slightly away, the weight of peril bearing down. "You don't know what you're dealing with." Felicity stepped closer, her voice lowered. "Talk to us. You don't have to carry this alone." Their eyes locked, the connection simmering, threatening to boil over. "You think it's that easy?" Kale retorted, his bravado faltering momentarily. The vulnerability hung thick in the air, drawing an acute stillness among those gathered. "That's exactly what I think, because I'm tired of fighting shadows. I'm tired of the baggage we both carry." Felicity felt a rush, each word sparking energy. "We are not the past, Kale." A flash of light broke across the sky, shadows morphing under the growing storm, threatening to engulf the very ground they stood on. The air crackled with unspoken desires, electrified by anger and longing. Ricky interjected, arms crossed dramatically. "Well, distraction never hurt anyone. Anyone need a drink? This boat's turning to a disaster zone." His grin plastered over the tension, but all could see the unease beneath. "We can't just laugh it away, Ricky," Felicity snapped, her voice slicing through the air. Suddenly, Rena piped in. "A night storm has a way of clearing the air. Sometimes chaos is just life finding a new rhythm." The collective silence gave way to a moment of reflection, vulnerability mixing into that rich swamp air. Kale glanced at Felicity, the anger melting into a tragic sense of understanding. I'm scared of what happens next, of losing you in the madness." Felicity, her determination softening into tenderness, reached for his hand, her touch sparking unspoken promises. "Then let's face that chaos together. No more secrets, Kale. You and me, whatever that means." The storm began to rain down, the first droplet splattering on the glossy leaves around them. It carried with it promise and healing, mixing with the salt of their fears. Kale's eyes searched her, searching for something deeper. "All for us, huh?" "All for us," she whispered, sealing their fragile understanding under the growing tempest. Yet looming over them, shadows grew fainter, as if the swamp itself listened. Scene 53, Fleeting Moments of Joy. The thick, humid air of the swamp clung to Jolene's skin like a second layer, its warmth contrasting sharply with the chill of worry creeping into her thoughts. The wind, a playful whisper tangled in the Spanish moss overhead, sent shivers dancing along her spine, stirring an irresistible sense of urgency within her. Beneath the low-hanging branches of cypress trees, the swamp felt both alive and silent, a bastion of secrets twisted in the twilight. Kale Belial stood near the water's edge, his silhouette framed by the dying light. A languid breeze tousled his dark curls, adding to his charm as he gazed out over the murky depths. She caught the tension in his shoulders, the shadow of his restless spirit. "Why do you always choose the swamps to brood?" Felicity teased lightly, forcing her tone to flirt rather than condemn, though the edge of concern lingered. She moved closer, the bottom of her jeans dragging through damp earth, splattering mud onto her shoes. "It's where I feel the most at home," Cale replied, a mischievous spark glinting in his eye. "Besides, have you ever tried to brood in a place filled with the aroma of cinnamon rolls? Not very conducive to self-pity." Rolling her eyes with a laugh, Jolene's heart skipped a beat. He could flip from dark to light in an instant. "So the swamp beats a bakery in your book, huh?" "Not just any bakery," he winked, his grin infectious. "Only the one that holds your grandmother's secret recipe." Before she could respond, a distant raucous sound erupted from the nearby marsh. A laugh, then a shout. A gaggle of tourists had gathered around the airboat tours, oblivious to the fact they were mired in a deeper concern than their sunburns or tour schedules. They were a diversion, the laughter jarring against the backdrop of their own heavy, unspoken truths. "Seems like they've found the party." Jolene gestured toward the sound. "Don't you want to see what they're up to?" Cale squinted at the gathering crowd, his expression shifting from playful to cautious. What if they come for the show and not the airboat? "Shows can be fun." She leaned closer, digging her heels into the mud, the sensation grounding her. "Trust me, we'll have our audience all to ourselves later." His gaze softened, revealing a simmering longing beneath the self-imposed armor he wore. "You always know how to charm your way out of logic with nonsense." "Yeah, well, it's working," she said, raising an eyebrow. "But we can't stay concealed forever." Cale took a step toward her, the world closing in as the twilight deepened. "Or we could," he suggested in a low tone, his intentions crisp and urgent. Before she could grasp the full weight of his words, he closed the gap between them, arms enfolding her within a cocoon of warmth. Their laughter faded as the moment demanded stillness. Just how tangled the two of them had become echoed with unspoken clarity. The distant splashes of fish breaking the surface resonated as the heartbeat of the swamp, matching the swelling rhythm in Jolene's chest. She tilted her head up, meeting Cale's dark gaze, and for a fleeting moment, the world around them faded into a soft haze. A raindrop splattered against her cheek, cool against the warmth of Cale's body. He smiled, brushing the water from her face with gentle fingers, his touch igniting sparks of possibility. "What do you think? Would it be wrong to steal a moment? Isn't that what we're meant to do?" She leaned in, heart racing, caught between mischief and the thrill of vulnerability. "Like when we were kids, sneaking off to the old treehouse." He grinned, a crooked smile that melted her worries away. "I was thinking more about this kiss." Time halted as the air crackled with their shared history. The wind spun their laughter like leaves caught in an autumn breeze. It was in the pull of each other's presence where the world fell away, allowing tenderness to lace through them like a mystical thread connecting their fates. As their lips met, it was like a storm breaking, an electric surge of warmth enveloping them against the tapestry of twilight. Reality, worries, the swamp, everything dissolved into a kaleidoscope of fleeting joy. Cale's hands brushed along Jolene's arms, soft yet steady, and she melted into that embrace. Just like that, the kiss wasn't merely an act of rebellion or respite. It was a promise echoing among the cypress, a declaration that nothing could keep them from claiming what was theirs. In that breathless moment, as darkness wrapped around them, her heart sang, knowing that whatever threats loomed ahead, they would face them together. "Let's hold on to this," he whispered softly, his forehead resting against hers, their breaths mingling in the humid air, "for as long as we can." Scene 54. Ricky's desperate move. The dim light of the midday sun filtered through the gnarled branches of the cypress trees, settling on the deck of the airboat as it bobbed gently on the still swamp water. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and the distant chatter of birds. "Are you really going to sit there while it all falls apart?" Ricky's voice sliced through the air like a knife, his intensity palpable. He leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, eyes narrowed at Felicity, sitting across from him, fingers nervously playing with the hem of her blouse. "Ricky, I just need a moment," Felicity replied, her voice steady but tinged with strain. The chaos of the past few days pressed in on her, almost like the weight of the swamp itself. "A moment? You mean to sit here while Belial parades around like he owns the place? You can't be serious." Ricky's hand gestured wildly. Ricky had always been a firebrand, someone with a knack for lighting flames wherever he saw ash. Today, however, his spark came with a smirk that masked deeper intentions. "I'm just trying to make this work," Felicity shot back, her frustration mounting as she gripped the edge of the seat. "This is my family's legacy, Ricky, not some game of charades." "That's exactly what it is. You think this tour is going to save your family? It's all a facade." His words cracked through the dampness of the air, laden with accusation. He paused, letting silence thicken between them, before adding, "What if Belial is just waiting for you to trip so he can claim the swamp for his own?" Across the murky water, a figure approached, silhouetted against the dim sunlight glinting off the water. Belial, his presence magnetic yet uncertain, could sense tensions simmering from the airboat. His heart quickened as he zeroed in on Felicity's tense posture. "Ricky, please," Felicity replied, her voice straining against the weight of reality. "You don't know him like I do. We have something." "Something?" Ricky laughed incredulously. "Tell me, Felicity, has he whispered sweet nothings to you too? Or are you just losing more of yourself in his shadow?" The sarcasm in his tones sliced through her, the unasked questions hanging in the air. Felicity exhaled, her composure starting to fray. "You don't understand what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to salvage this, and that includes him." Meanwhile, as Belial kept approaching, he wrestled with his own feelings of inadequacy. He had been a mere specter, haunted by his past, bound by an ancient promise that tethered him to the swamp's perils. Deep down, he wished to be the hero Felicity thought him to be. "Believe it or not, I'm not trying to trap you," Felicity continued, frustration boiling over. "I just want a chance, a shot at something real." Just then, the tension shattered like glass against stone as Ricky shot up, his voice rising. "And what does real mean to you, huh? Trading your integrity for daydreams?" He turned away, fists clenched. "You think you can change the past? You're just flirting with disaster." A sudden hush fell over the deck as the air thickened with uncertainty. Just then, Cale, who had been repairing a cracked part of the boat, dropped his tools in the sudden tension. He cleared his throat, entering the fray. "What's this? A competition for tragic anecdotes? Because I've got a few of my own." Ricky turned on Cale, irritation radiating from him. "Oh, what? Are you going to take up the role of the mediator? You're just as lost as we are." Cale chuckled lightly, though the situation was anything but amusing. "Just trying to keep the drama on stage and off the dock," he replied, his eyes darting toward Felicity, who gazed at Belial with untold affection. As the air thickened with unsaid words, Belial finally stepped onto the deck, his silhouette imposing. Yet there was an uncertain gentleness in his approach. "What's this about disaster?" he asked quietly. He focused on Felicity, who looked torn, a real unease flickering behind her eyes. The others fell silent. "Looks like you're not the only one who's trapped," Ricky sneered, unable to resist taunting him further. "But hey, don't let me stop you from saving your damsel in distress." Belial's protective instincts flared, a fire igniting within him. "I'm not here to save anyone, Ricky," he said, his voice steady and low. "But if it means protecting her, then I'll do whatever it takes." "Protecting her? Or just claiming her like the swamp's a trophy?" Ricky shot back, the animosity palpable. Felicity rose abruptly, her heart pounding, emotions swirling like a storm in the swamp. "Enough! Can't you see that all of this gets us nowhere?" Caught in the whirlwind of shifting alliances, Ricky's motivations hung heavy in the air. Tension thickened as silence enveloped them once more, a desperate stillness, waiting for each character to show their hand. Belial's gaze softened as he turned to Felicity, their eyes locking with an intensity that spoke volumes amidst the chaos. "Just trust me," he said simply, the depth of his voice punctuating the air with promise and desperation. In that moment, she could see the truth etched across his brow, a vulnerability bare as the moss lining the swamp. It was no longer just about the haunting past or the looming future. It was about the choices made within the mire of their tumultuous surroundings. As the silence lingered, caught between expectations and contradictions, the weight of revelation hung in the air, waiting to break free. Scene 55. Heartbeats and Chamber Secrets. The evening sweltered in a thick blanket of humidity, the swamp alive with the croaking of frogs and the distant hum of insects. The air felt electric, charged with uncertainty and anticipation. Kale, standing amid the twisted cypress trees, glanced down at the reflective murk below. Shadows danced like faded memories across the water's surface. "Do you ever feel like the swamp knows all your secrets?" he murmured, a hint of mischief gleaming in his eyes, as if he were teasing the encroaching darkness with a dare. Felicity, with her vibrant red hair tied messily atop her head, inhaled deeply, the wet, earthy scent of the swamp awakening a long-buried nostalgia. "Not just the swamp, Kale. I think it's our hearts that carry the weight of secrets," she shot back, crossing her arms defiantly. A playful half-smile tugged at her lips despite the tension between them. Kale's brows lifted, inviting connection, hoping to dissolve the heaviness of the night. "What do you carry, Jolene?" With a slight frown, Felicity stepped closer, her heart racing beneath her layered cotton blouse. "Family expectations. You know that. Keeping this airboat business afloat brings pressure, not to mention." She trailed off, glancing at the water, as if searching for answers in its depths. "Sometimes I feel lost, like I'm navigating for everyone else's dreams but my own." "Hiding behind chaos can be comforting," Kale replied, reflective yet teasing. "Like a good horror movie, thrilling but full of predictable jumps." Her laugh was almost like a gasp, breaking the tension. "I thought we were supposed to be serious tonight?" Felicity challenged lightly, her voice rising with playful defiance. "Ah, but seriousness leads to sad faces, which are far less charming." He flashed a crooked smile. Every monster should learn the fun side of fear. Their banter, laced with hints of vulnerability and connection, drifted on the heavy, damp air. Felicity took a deep breath, the weight of mere words settling between them. She sensed the pulsing heart beneath Kale's veneer, like a treasure waiting to be discovered. "Do you want to know what I see in your heart?" Felicity asked, tilting her head slightly, the glow of the moon revealing flecks of gold in her eyes. Kale's breath caught. Was she really daring to pass through the door of his guarded sanctum? "Enlighten me," he murmured, a challenge lacing his tone. Felicity stepped closer still, her breath mingling with the warm evening breeze. "I see desire, a longing for something deeper than just mischief." A moment of silence enveloped them, thick as the fog beginning to roll in. "But I also see a heart chained by secrets, secrets that might just hurt us both." The vulnerability hung in the humid air like an uninvited guest. Kale shifted his weight and smirked, trying to diffuse their sudden seriousness with humor. "Well, if this is a haunt, I'd prefer the boudoir ghost to the vengeful spirit." "Focus," Felicity teased, scrutinizing him playfully. "It's not just your wicked charm that draws me in." Suddenly, laughter erupted nearby, riotous and carefree, the sounds of their friends enjoying an obligatory nighttime gathering. Rick's unmistakable guffaw rang through the air, followed by Sheila's sharp wit. "And who brought the marshmallows? I thought we were preserving a sacred tradition." Felicitations and cheers echoed from the firelight, enticing and tempting like sweet honey. Kale begrudgingly broke eye contact, casting a longing glance back at the party. "Our friends seem to need us," he said, but his tone hinted otherwise, tangling them both deeper into their uncharted conversation. "Or perhaps we need them," Felicity ventured quietly, her gaze still locked on him, yearning to understand the man beneath the layers. Kale hesitated, the weight of the evening starkly clear. "Come on, let's see what laughter has in store." The mask of nonchalance slouched slightly, revealing more than he intended. They began to turn, but Felicity paused, allowing the intimacy to settle a beat longer. "One last question. What's your secret, Kale?" His eyes shimmered, a world of possibilities opening with the night's heavy atmosphere. To navigate through the mire, one must learn to embrace the heart, not just the dark. The weight of their shared secrets hung in the air, unspoken echoes knitting them tighter together as they stepped back into the laughter, leaving a tentative promise hanging in the air, a whisper of passion and honesty yet to unfold. The surface. The afternoon sun filtered through the moss-laden branches, casting mottled shadows across the deck of Felicity's airboat, the Revelry. The vessel creaked gently as she moved about the space, hands deftly sealing bags of snacks for her next tour. The smell of sun-warmed peanuts mixed with the earthy aroma of the swamp, a comforting yet bittersweet scent that tugged at memories of simpler times. Felicity hummed softly, focusing on the task at hand, but her mind drifted to Kale, who lingered nearby, the ever-present weight of his dark secret hanging heavy in the air. Cale stood by the railing, gaze fixed on the murky waters below, his fists clenched, the tension in his body signifying a storm brewing beneath his calm exterior. He longed to bridge the emotional chasm growing between them. Everything felt fragile, ripe for shattering. Felicity's hum faltered as she caught a glimpse of him in her peripheral vision. She knew that look caught between duty and desire, each moment stretching out like the swamp's winding paths. "Belial," she said, her voice breaking the silence like a sudden gust of wind. "You okay there?" He turned slightly, just enough for her to see the shadow of a smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Just watching the water. Kind of like life, isn't it? Deep, uncharted territory." Felicity rolled her eyes, a playful grin breaking through her focused demeanor. "You and your philosophical musings. We've got a tour in an hour, you know." "Ah, yes, the joyous swamp tour where dreams go to die," he retorted, running a hand through his tousled hair as he tried to mask the complexities swirling within. Yet, his voice held a hint of warmth amidst the sarcasm. She leaned against the railing beside him, their shoulders almost touching. The proximity buzzed like electric current, an unspoken invitation crackling in the air. "You're either going to have to learn to lighten up or face a life of mediocrity. A little joy never hurt anyone." Cale's expression darkened slightly, memories of the pact, a grim marker of his past, bubbling up. "Joy? Maybe I'm just not cut out for it." Felicity shifted, allowing the weight of his words to settle between them. "Don't you dare use that excuse." She turned to him, the sun reflecting in her determined eyes. "You can be as concrete or whimsical as you choose. Your past doesn't define your path unless you let it." As she spoke, a flicker of hope danced in the depths of his gaze, yet the shadows didn't fade. Instead, they morphed into something heavier, deeply rooted in guilt and obligation. Suddenly, the loud clanging of pots and pans from the engine room shattered the moment, drawing their attention. It was Monroe, Felicity's eccentric mechanic, cracking jokes about engine oil while jostling around the cramped space. "You two lovebirds better not be getting too sappy. I can't hose off that kind of nonsense," he hollered, laughter bubbling from his chest. The tension in the boat lightened instantly as Felicity turned back, the momentary friction diffusing into warmth. "Oh, please, Monroe. This isn't a romantic novel," she shot back, giggling as she wiped her brow. "Yeah, sure it isn't," he teased, smirking as he wheeled out a heavy toolbox, clanging it in mock seriousness. "But don't forget to keep things steamy before the gators show up." Cale chuckled lightly, realizing how absurd the situation had become. He turned to Felicity, who was doubling over in laughter, her carefree spirit infectious. There she was, draped in sunlit mischief, reminding him that life could still defy expectations. Their laughter soon faded, leaving the residual warmth that lingered like a touch unmade. The shadows returned, and there was a brief silence before Cale spoke again. "I know you'd prefer me to be all in for this dream of yours, but—" He hesitated, the weight in his heart pulling at his words. "I don't want to drag you into my darkness." Felicity's gaze found his in earnest. "Cale, I've made my choices. If I wanted to stay on the sidelines, I would have chosen a different life. But I want to know you, all of you, not just the light." The space between them felt impossibly charged, a delicate tension that crackled with something unspoken. As Cale stepped closer, his breath mingled with the humid air, and for a heartbeat, time suspended. "Then let's figure it out together," he whispered, a solemn promise laced with longing. She searched his eyes, sensing the burden shifting slightly as vulnerability flickered within them. "Together," she echoed softly, their worlds intertwining like the roots of the mangroves below. Their connection deepened, an uncharted journey unfolding just beneath the surface. Scene 57. The storm before the calm. As the sun dipped below the horizon, shadows coiled around the cypress trees like a tightening noose. Cale Omari leaned against the hip of the weathered dock, his eyes tracing the iridescent ripples on the surface of the swamp. The air was thick, pregnant with the scent of wet earth and impending rain, yet nothing about it felt peaceful. There was a storm brewing, not just in the sky, but within the hearts of those gathered around him. "Ricky's making his move tonight, isn't he?" Felicity Duval's voice broke through the heavy silence, her tone sharper than the reeds swaying nearby. She stepped closer, her brow furrowed, and brushed her tangled hair back, determination gleaming in her dark eyes. "Yeah, and we need to be ready," Cale replied, pushing himself upright. The weight of the unspoken histories he carried pressed down on him, yet he found himself captivated by Felicity's urgency. There was a vulnerability in her stance that tugged at something deep inside him, making him want to shield her from the chaos about to erupt. "Prepare the airboat and gather supplies. I won't let him destroy what my parents built," she declared, her voice steady but somehow trembling. Cale caught a quick breath, admiration blossoming between them, potent yet precarious. As they moved to the airboat, the scent of damp timber filled the air, amplifying their senses. Felicity climbed aboard first, her limbs dipping into the boat's embrace, and the spark of electricity between them seemed almost tangible as he followed, brushing against her shoulder. The mood shifted, tension mixing dangerously with unacknowledged desire. Meanwhile, nearby, Lily, Felicity's enthusiastic friend, was struggling with a stubborn ice chest, rattling it in a futile attempt to pry it open. "I've got a packed lunch here that will rival any chicken dinner," she exclaimed, laughter bubbling up to deflate the tension around them. "I mean, who doesn't want something questionable from the last trip? Didn't we just agree on a no food from the swamp policy?" Josh interjected, leaning lazily against his own airboat. His mischievous grin softened the seriousness of the moment. "Besides, not even you can spin swamp water into a gourmet meal. It's just, well, swamp water." "Just because you've got a platform to throw darts doesn't mean you ought to," Lily snapped playfully at him, tossing an empty muffin wrapper his way. "One day my culinary genius will shine. You just wait." "Don't quit your day job, then," Josh shot back with a wink, their banter letting in a brief moment of levity. The group's laughter eased the air around them, even if only for a fleeting breath. "Listen," Felicity said, an edge creeping back into her voice as she rose to command attention. "Ricky's making moves to take control, and we've got to have each other's backs. I won't lose the swamp to some ego-fueled conquest." The gravity of their situation was a blanket on the vibrant sounds of laughter that died down, leaving them exposed to the weight of impending danger. Abruptly, a voice pierced the heavy air, the deep, grating tone of Ricky echoed from the brackish water. "What do you think you're doing, Felicity? This isn't a playground. This is war." The wind shifted, carrying his threat. Felicity's stance faltered momentarily, fear flashing across her features before she steeled herself. Cale felt a flicker of resolve ignite within him, a fire desperate to blaze forth. They could not let Ricky derail their lives. The unshakable bond they had forged night after night now simmered to the surface, forging his determination. "Is it an outright confrontation you're looking for, or can we settle this like adults?" Cale stepped forward. His voice, layered with authority and uncertainty, resonated with the vulnerability that came not just from danger, but from the trembling reality of their intentions. "Adults?" Ricky sneered, emerging from the shadows with a predatory smirk. "You're all just kids playing at something you'll never understand." A pause. Then Felicity's voice rang out clear and firm. "This swamp is our home, and you'll never take that away from us." Her courage was magnetic, pulling Cale even closer to her side, their shoulders now brushing, a moment of connection amidst the brewing storm. As Ricky turned, sparks of humor flickered back into the atmosphere. Lily grumbled, "Doesn't he need a thesaurus? Kids isn't even his best take." "I'm sure half his dictionary is comprised of insults," Josh quipped. But Keel's focus remained on Felicity. They had to stand, to fight together. The anticipation crackled around them. With resolute silence, their fates entwined beneath the amber glow of the creeping dusk, Keel fixed his gaze ahead, knowing whatever storm lay ahead, they would weather it together. Scene 58. Ride the Rapids. The sun had started its slow descent over the murky waters of the swamp, casting a golden hue that fought against the encroaching clouds. Cale Omari leaned against the weathered dock, a half-finished drink cradled in his hand, watching Felicity Duval flirt with disaster as she tried to wrangle the airboat. "Come on, don't start now," Felicity exclaimed, her voice a blend of frustration and humor. The engine sputtered defiantly, refusing to roar to life. She twisted a wrench with fierce determination, her curly hair catching the breeze, showcasing the fiery spirit that often belied her soft smile. As Kale chuckled, the wind shifted, bringing a sudden chill that hinted at an approaching storm. He could feel it in his bones, that familiar, twisted instinct that warned of chaos looming just beyond their horizon. "You sure we need to take this thing out again? The swamp's acting up, Felicity." His voice took on an edge, playful yet laden with concern. "Oh, please," she shot back, wiping the grease from her forehead. To his eyes she seemed luminous, determination enhancing her sharp features, a battle-ready knight in a swampy tale. "This airboat has been through worse. It just needs a little coaxing." Just then, a loud bang echoed as the engine coughed violently and backfired, sending a puff of smoke into the air. Felicity stumbled back, arms flailing like a marionette freed from its strings. Kale rushed forward, his laughter mingling with her indignation. "Graceful, Felicity. Real graceful." "What did I get myself into?" she huffed, regaining her balance. As the storm clouds gathered further, she stood, hands on her hips, staring him down. "You were supposed to help." "Help or watch?" he teased, a smirk tugging at his mouth. Across the dock, the other boaters were gathering to witness the spectacle. Malik, a local mechanic renowned for his easygoing charm and comedic timing, leaned against his boat, shaking his head while munching on a piece of fried alligator. "Y'all might want to make sure you're not out there when the storm hits. Unless you like your hair in a permanent frizz," he quipped, laughter erupting from the small crowd. An older couple, Nancy and Otto, wandered over, drawn to the commotion. Otto, with his perpetual grin and shock of white hair, chimed in with a wink. "If she's reckless enough to try it, let her. We're here for the show." Cheeky banter turned to camaraderie as Malik approached, ruffling his hair playfully. "She really thinks this tin can handle a storm? Felicity, sunshine, that thing's gonna fly apart at the seams before you even hit the rapids." As the banter continued, Felicity glanced back at Kale, a spark of mischief in her eyes. "What do you think? Should we risk it?" The air was electric, their playful back and forth igniting heat just beneath the surface. "Dare I say, the currents call to you?" Kale replied, leaning in slightly, his teasing demeanor dropping to something more sincere. He found himself entranced by her vibrancy, feeling the weight of their banter take on deeper meaning. "Fine. If I get this started, we're going," Felicity declared, her determination once again resurrected. She dove back into the engine, furiously twisting bolts and knobs, her brow furrowed in concentration. The airboat sputtered and roared, startling a nearby flock of startled birds. "See? Just needed a little love," she triumphantly proclaimed, her hands up in victory. But the moment was short-lived. Wind picked up, and thunder rumbled ominously. Malik slipped an arm around Nancy. "You folks might want to rethink that joyride." "Rethink? Never," Felicity said, but she caught Kale's eye, and for a fleeting moment, the weight of everything they'd faced ebbed away. With the storm brewing, they shared a spark of synergy and a shared pulse, drawn in. "Then let's ride the rapids," Kale whispered softly, electric anticipation crackling in the air between them. They stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth radiate from one another. The world shrank. The impending chaos of the storm faded into the background, eclipsed by something exquisite and fragile. Just as Kale leaned in, the first raindrop fell, causing them both to pause, breath caught in their throats. Their eyes locked and something deep surging between them, an unspoken promise, the thrill of risk. "Then hold on tight," Kale murmured, the corners of his mouth breaking into an encouraging smile. And just like that, everything changed once again. Scene 59. Falling into trust. The sun hung low in the sky, dappled light filtering through the Spanish moss that draped languidly over the cypress trees. Jolene Duval stood at the edge of the water, poised over her airboat, its hull scratched and weathered but still holding the promise of adventure. She gripped a wrench in one hand, her brow furrowed in concentration. The boat needed repairs, but every clink of the metal sent her thoughts spiraling back to Belial. A shadow flitted by her peripherals, a reminder that even in solitude, she was never truly alone. "Need a hand, or are you attempting an elaborate escape?" Belial's voice danced through the air, light and teasing, breaking through her strained focus. She glanced up, momentarily caught off guard. "I'm perfectly capable, thank you. Unless you're here to entertain me with your swamp wisdom," she replied, a smirk playing at her lips, though it didn't entirely mask the weight in her chest. He took a step closer, his presence both grounding and unsettling, an intoxicating mix of warmth and danger. Why don't you let me help? The sooner we fix this, the sooner you can take your precious tours back to the sky. Jolene's jaw clenched, her eyes narrowing like a predator sizing up a rival. Or I could manage just fine without your help. What's the draw? You want to impress me? I'm not so easily won over. Belial leaned against the boat, crossing his arms. I could say the same, but we both know you can't set sail with a broken motor. The challenge sparkled between them like the sunlit water, each aware that the task was less about the boat and more about the emotions swirling just below the surface. She returned to her work, wrenching the bolt, though her mind was a swirl of thoughts, not just about the boat, but the undeniable connection that lingered in the air like the scent of blooming lilies. All right, okay, she finally conceded, reluctantly setting the wrench down. Help me with whatever you think needs attention. Just don't make it a big deal. With a smile that held mischief, he stepped forward, easing into the space beside her. Their shoulders brushed, and she felt an electric charge surge through her. He was undeniably handsome, with his strong features softened by the dwindling sunlight, that easy grin promising nothing but trouble. Let's start with the spark plugs. He gestured dramatically, as if preparing for a theatrical performance, making her chuckle despite herself. As they worked together, the air between them relaxed, filled with the low hum of insects and the distant croaks of frogs. He handed her tools with an exaggerated flourish, making each moment feel grander than it needed to be. Careful now, he quipped. Might break a nail. Those manicures are hard-earned, I understand. Oh, please, you know these hands do all the dirty work? She shot back playfully. Besides, my true talents lie in dodging swamp creatures and saving tourists from their own bad decisions. Ah, a true artist, he nodded, leaning closer, their faces inches apart now. Tell me more about your great escape plans. She held his gaze, and the air felt thick between them, charged. Every heartbeat pulsed, wrapping around them like the vines that climbed the trees, each whisper promising secrets only they could share. Honestly, I want to restore the family legacy. She finally admitted, vulnerability creeping in amidst the banter. But every day just feels heavy. His eyes softened, a flicker of understanding igniting in the depths. I get that. A pause lingered between them, stretching rich with unspoken truths. Sometimes we carry burdens we don't want or can't escape. Jolene met his gaze, a tremor of connection coursing through their locked eyes. What if I told you I'm tired of pretending, of being the go-to for everyone else? Then maybe it's time we both stop pretending, he murmured, inching closer until their breaths mingled, a palpable tension crackling like summer lightning. Her heart raced, a visceral thrum that sent butterflies skittering in her stomach, the urge to lean in overwhelming. Slowly they bridged the gap, mouths tantalizingly close. Jolene, he whispered, as if trying to weigh the moment, holding them both in suspended anticipation. I know, she breathed, leaning into the magnetic pull. And just as their lips brushed soft, tentative, promising, the world seemed to dissolve around them, the chaos of the swamp a mere background noise to the pulse of their connection. The kiss deepened, filled with unspent emotions, two souls entwined in a chaos so profound they forgot all else. But as the shadows lengthened, the moment shifted, a reminder that trust was a fragile thing. As they pulled apart, breaths mingling, hearts racing. Maybe we're not so different after all, she said, her voice a soft whisper, the weight of the moment still heavy in the air, tempered by laughter and newfound closeness. Maybe not, Belial replied, a familiar spark of mischief lighting his eyes. Mischief that promised nothing but hope. Scene 60, The Power of Choice. The sun hung low over the murky waters of the swamp, casting a golden drizzle on the foliage. Cale Omari, known to some as Belial, stood at the edge of the dock, shadows playing tricks on his mind as the breeze rustled through the mangroves. Grit and sadness churned within him, echoing the weight of his secret pact, one he clung to, even as he groaned under its burden. He paced restlessly, the wooden boards creaking beneath his feet. In the distance, Felicity Duval's airboat, a rusting beast decorated with an array of vibrant colors, struggled to emerge from the depths of the swamp. The flickering lights had dimmed, reflecting her own fading spirit. Yet there she was, collar turned up against the swamp's steady gusts, an image of determination. With each cratered path she navigated through the muck, she tugged at Cale's heartstrings like a well-worn banjo. "Come on, old girl," Felicity shouted, coaxing the boat forward, her voice equal parts charm and frustration. "You have one more tour in you. Or maybe it's just time to retire," Cale muttered under his breath, shaking his head. He turned back to watch Felicity, her hands moving anxiously over the steering wheel, brave yet vulnerable. Choice, in a single heartbeat, pinched the air. Suddenly, the boat coughed and sputtered, before silence enveloped the dock. Cale narrowed his eyes, the longing in his chest tugging him closer. He knew how much she cherished the tour business, how entwined it was with her identity. As if sensing his gaze, Felicity twisted in her seat, her thick curls dancing about her shoulders like playful spirits. "Cale," she called, her voice climbing above the eerie quiet of the swamp. "I need reinforcements." "Reinforcements?" He barked out a laugh, stepping towards her with purpose. "What's next, a cheerleading squad?" "Funny," Felicity shot back, laughter lifting in her tone, combating the heaviness. "Do you really think this swamp will give me a break?" He could see it, the determination brimming just beneath her surface, the fragile dreams in her hand, shivering like leaves in the wind. "Not unless you make it." Felicity hesitated, biting her lip, an unexpected vulnerability that crinkled her brows. "You always talk like it's just that simple." "Because it is," he said, stepping up to the airboat, his voice low. "You decide to fight for what you want. Don't let fear chain you down." As he spoke, a laugh echoed from behind. Arlo, a scrappy deckhand with dreams bigger than the swamp's vastness, ambled toward them. "Felicity, you expecting someone to do your work for you?" Arlo grinned, winking conspiratorially. "Or do you intend to crawl your way to victory? Treasure isn't just dug up, you know." Felicity shot back, her tone playful but edged with seriousness. "It requires grit and relentless dreams, something a scoundrel like you wouldn't understand." "Hey now!" Arlo held up his hands in mock surrender. "Grit has never been my problem. Just look at my hair." The three of them erupted into laughter, but beneath the levity, shadows lingered. Cale stepped closer to Felicity, his heart swirling with urgency. "You have something to fight for," he said, his voice almost a whisper, daring to touch the truth of her ambition. "And so do I." "Your battle against your past, you mean?" She tilted her head, eyes probing into the depths of his soul, searching for the truth he had yet to reveal. "Yes, that," he replied, holding her gaze. "And?" Just then, a commotion erupted as Rita, Felicity's cousin and occasional thorn in her side, emerged from the swamp with dramatic flair. Mud splattered across her face and brightly colored fabric draped messily around her. "Guess who just wrestled a gator to save a vending machine?" she exclaimed, hands on her hips, a grin plastered ear to ear. "That didn't even happen." Felicity rolled her eyes, but the corners of her mouth twitched, almost breaking into a smile. Cale laughed aloud, laughter lightening the gravity that hung in the air. "I guess we'll take the gator's gossip in lieu of honesty," he responded, feeling the tension fracture. Felicity glanced at Cale, her expression shifting yet again. Something softened within her. "Life is full of chaos," she said quietly, "but that's where we find our choices." "True," Cale replied, leaning ever so slightly closer. "It won't be easy, but whatever we decide to do, I'm with you. I want to fight together, against everything." Felicity's pulse quickened, their shared resolve radiating between them as if sparking new paths through the swamp. But before words could fill the void, Arlo cleared his throat in exaggerated fashion. "We should probably start by not letting Rita wrestle any more gators." Laughter erupted again, the swamp enchanting them in all its chaotic charm, but the air hung thick with unsaid promises, shared choices balancing on the edge of a blade. Scene 61, Final Preparations. The sun hung low in the sky, filtering through the swaying cypress trees, casting a dappled light over Jolene Duval's airboat dock. The bustling sounds of the nearby festival floated in the humid air, the notes of music intermingled with laughter, creating a carnival ambiance. Jolene adjusted the twine on a decorative lantern, its vibrant orange hues mirroring the excitement she felt bubbling in her chest. Shivers of anticipation danced over her skin, both from the warm air and the flurry of emotions coursing beneath her practical veneer. "Hey, Jolene," called out Lyle, a fellow business owner and her closest ally, as he navigated through a group of children with painted faces. He was juggling several colorful festival flyers, his exuberant nature contagious. "Have you seen the new map they made for the tour routes? They're practically glowing. And I'm not talking about the paint," he added with a wink. Jolene couldn't help but smile. "I just hope they didn't label our airboat tour as the Swamp of Doom. I'd prefer tourists don't think their adventure ends with an alligator buffet." Lyle chuckled, tossing a flyer her way. "You'd be surprised. They love the thrill, just like you with those wild stories about swamp spirits." Jolene rolled her eyes playfully, but felt warmth suffuse her cheeks. That was once, just to draw some interest. As they laughed, a shadow fell across them. Mire, or Belial as the locals dubbed him, stepped forward, his hands tucked casually in his pockets, an enigmatic smirk teasing his lips. His presence shifted the air, the humor tinged with an undeniable depth that made Jolene's heart race. "You'll scare away the customers with your ghost tales, Jolene," he said, eyes glimmering with mischief. "Better to stick with the truth. I'm not the swamp's curse. I'm its charm." His teasing made her stomach flutter. "You're right. I'll just start telling them about the grumpy tour guide instead." She raised an eyebrow, playful challenge dancing between them. Before he could respond, a commotion erupted from the festival. Teenagers rushed past with painted faces, shouting about a prank gone wrong involving a water balloon catapult aimed at Mayor Dawson, leaving laughter and potential chaos in their wake. "I should check on that," Lyle muttered, glancing toward the ruckus. "If those kids ruin my sandwiches again, I'm going to start charging them." He jogged away, leaving Jolene and Belial standing side by side, the chatter fading into an expectant hush. "I think Lyle might be more concerned about his food than the festival," she said lightly, but her eyes lingered on Belial. His laughter was rich and soothing. "That man can throw together a picnic, but I think he loves the chaos more. Kind of like you, huh?" "Chaos? No, I thrive under pressure," Jolene retorted, trying to sound serious but failing miserably as a smile crept onto her lips. "It's the only way to keep things exciting. Or exhausting," Belial observed, his tone suddenly shifting. The teasing glimmer in his eyes dimmed, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. "You realize not everything has to be a spectacle, right? We can embrace the calm." Jolene hesitated, his words embedding themselves in her. The air felt thick with unspoken things between them. Before she could respond, she noticed Dagmar, her longtime friend and unexpected voice of reason, barging in with a basket in hand, her auburn hair glowing under the sun. "Please tell me you both are bonding over festival decor and not plotting a festival heist," Dagmar teased, her sharp eyes flitting between them. "Because if it's a heist, I'm in, but only if we steal the best shawarma." Belial broke into genuine laughter, a sound that attempted to break the heaviness that hung between him and Jolene. "No heists today, Dagmar. Just a little light-hearted banter." "Humph, you call that banter? I thought it was about to turn into a Shakespearean monologue." Dagmar grinned, her vibrant personality pushing through the ambience like a sudden gust of wind. Jolene's heart ached at the camaraderie surrounding her. "No drama, I promise. Just making sure everything is ready for tomorrow," she said, shifting her gaze toward the festival preparations. Dagmar leaned in, lowering her voice in mock secrecy. "And is it? Because I genuinely think you two might flirt your way into a romantic comedy if you keep this up." The moment grew heavy, charged with unnoticed tension. Jolene met Belial's gaze, both amused and apprehensive. "We'll be fine. This festival is going to be perfect." His smile returned, softer now, somehow more intimate amidst the noise. "As long as you're leading the charge into this chaos, it will be." The atmosphere around them shimmered with potential, the festival looming with its promise of laughter and revelations. Outside the tranquility of this shared moment, the chaotic life of the swamp awaited, an adventure woven in friendship, laughter, and perhaps the romance neither had fully embraced yet. "Let's make it unforgettable," Jolene whispered, determination settling over her like a warm cloak. "Unforgettable," Belial echoed, his gaze steady, filled with possibilities and uncharted paths. Scene 62, Festival of Connections. The sun was a molten gold, melting over the horizon as the buzz of Gatorfest enveloped the little town of Riverview. Booths popped up like wildflowers, each vibrant canvas stretching across the muddy terrain of the swamp. The air was thick with the scent of fried everything: shrimp, alligator bites, and the unmistakable sweetness of cane syrup. Laughter mingled with the calls of local musicians, who strummed banjos harmoniously, inviting the townspeople to join the celebration. Cale Omari stood at the edge of the commotion, his broad shoulders tense. The laughter seemed like a distant echo, and the comfort of the little crowd around him struggled to reach his heart. His dark hair fell across his forehead, framing eyes that looked over the milling crowd, desperate yet determined. He scanned for her, Felicity Duval, the one who made him feel alive in this gator-choked mire, even when the weight of his secret clawed at him. "Hey, Cale," called a voice from the side. It was Marlene, a boisterous woman whose laugh could rival the musicians. "You planning to mope all day? Get in here." But when Cale turned, he found not only her inviting smile, but also her friend, Mr. Jeb, beaming with enthusiasm. Jeb held a paper cup overflowing with a suspiciously green drink. "It's swamp juice," he declared. "Good for the soul." Cale's lips quirked slightly, but the mirth didn't quite touch his eyes. "I think I'll pass. I'm not sure if the soul needs that kind of help." He gazed at the crowd again, searching. Nearby, Felicity was navigating her way through a tangled web of kids, parents, and food vendors.